Hey guys, welcome back to the His and Hers of Truth podcast. This is my lovely wife.
Sim, great seeing everyone again, and thank you guys for your support. I've noticed our algorithm has gone up just a little bit, but hey, you know what? Let's stop shadow watching.
Yeah, so we got some decent views from this last video, guys. And hey guys, we're still, kind of building it as we go. We're still trying to steer the ship the right way, but I know we're getting shadow banned out there. So do us a huge solid, right? Subscribe to the channel, right? Push us out there. Right, smash that like button.
Boom.
And of course, turn on the notification bell. Speaking of notifications, honey, hey guys, as promised, we have a live coming up this Sunday, the 10th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And that's going to be to kind of answer all your guys' past questions and comments. And then, of course, during the live, if you guys have any questions or comments for us, we'd love to hear it. Love to react to any and all of them. I know there's obviously a lot of confusion once it comes to the truth and all these different matrices out there. So, guys, have your questions ready. Pop it to and even just maybe some advice, right? Like how we've been married for so long, kids, life, whatever. Okay, guys, today's video that we're reacting to, and of course, please watch it until the very end before you share and comment it. But it is the second part of a video we recently reacted to, honey, where the question was, which Asian race is the best in bed? So today's video is the opposite, which is which Asian race is the worst in bed? So I'm kind of excited to react to it. And I love these short clips because when people have to answer very quickly and you don't have enough time to think, you answer very truthfully. Right? So I love, because people get kind of caught up and they kind of answer the truth. So let's see.
Which Asian race is the worst in bed?
Chinese.
Oh, that hurt.
Which Asian race is the worst in bed?
I can't answer that either.
I'm just gonna say.
Okay, so real quick, those two reactions. So the first guy, he was asked which Asian race is the worst in bed. So obviously female, right? Which ethnicity female is worse. He said Chinese. And so what do you think about well, because that means she was obviously Chinese, right? So what do you think about that first one, honey?
Well, because
and why? Why do you think? We have to make our suspicions, right?
I'm just thinking for us Asian women, we need guidance because we're taught to sexuality and all that stuff. Things like that are more of a hush hush thing. So I think they need guidance into doing things, and mostly the men are the ones supposed to lead sexually, and tell them what to do. So I'm thinking since they're not that experienced, and if they are experienced, they got to be guided.
Yeah, and that is a huge one. Now, obviously,
I'm thinking that's
you're right. Obviously, there's no context, right? So we're just my wife and having a fun time just guessing. But my wife, and let's continue with what you were saying, and you're 100% right. If a female is inexperienced, and see, this sucks, guys, because it's a double-edged sword, right? A lot of guys nowadays, we talk about how we want an experience, right? A freak on the streets, but like a wife at home, right? That type of stuff, right? So we want someone who's experienced, but we don't want someone who's experienced as men.
But
right?
You don't want them as a wife. You just want the freakiness.
So this is the problem, guys. If you want your submissive, right, non-promiscuous, right, maybe a virgin or low body count woman to be more freaking the bed with you, you're going to have to guide her.
That's what I just said, guys.
Right? And so if you're the type of guy, and I hate to say it, guys, I always come back to kind of saying both sides, right? Women have their issues, especially in this modern day and age, but I'm talking to my Asian brothers specifically, right? Because these are the stereotypes we're known for. We're not leaders, we're not go-getters, we're not outspoken, right? And one of the things when it comes to being outspoken is you got to say how you want your sex, right? So if you're not willing to be the leader in the relationship and talk about to your submissive wife, or let's say a more traditional woman, right? Because that's what we want.
But that's why she needs guidance.
She means she has less experience. That means you're going to have to tell her what you want from her. And if you're not willing to do that, then it could be a bad experience for you, right? And that's typically how it is. So let's be honest. He wouldn't have said that it's bad if she knew what to do in bed. Let's be honest, right? Okay. And then what do you think about the two girls that says, I can't react on it, and do you remember that at all, honey?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I don't know, maybe she's not dating in her Asian race. I'm not sure. Or maybe she doesn't have that experience to compare with, or maybe she doesn't want to look bad, or I don't know. I mean,
No, you're hit on the nail because I don't know if you remember from the first
I'm
video.
just saying.
They asked those two same ladies or gals, right, about what who was the best in bed, right? And they never slept with Asian dudes before. Remember?
Oh, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the problem is they have no context. They never. They've only been
Who are you
dating
gonna
other.
compare?
Yeah. They've been only dating other ethnicities, and so they're like, I can't talk about that either, right?
Yeah.
But your hope is if let's say they had experience, right? And I'll make it quick. If those women had experience with Asian dudes and they were answered that way, that's kind of truthfully how we want our women to answer, right? You don't want a promiscuous women talking about your business out there. That all that stuff does is make her look more like a 304 out on the streets, right? So if they did have experience with Asian dudes and they were willing to say, hey, I'm not willing to talk about that, that's private. That's kind of what you want our Asian women to be, right? But anyways, no, those girls didn't have any experience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd be like modern women and talk about it.
Yeah.
Korean.
Oh,
Sorry,
Okay, Korean.
Chinese.
Chinese.
Definitely
Chinese.
Chinese.
Alright.
Chinese.
Korean guys.
Korean guys.
Yeah.
Nope.
They have too big of an ego, and all they care about is their penis.
Oh,
Okay. So 2 Koreans
Yeah,
there,
two Chinese. So.
and then 1 Chinese.
No, that too.
The
Oh,
first
is it
girl said Korean, and he says, "Don't hate me."
Oh.
And then the next girl, the in-between girl, said Chinese. And then the last girl, she actually at least gave a reason, right? This actually gives us some context now, guys,
Yeah.
because the other viewer, the interviewers didn't get context. So let's talk about the Korean one first, right? She said that because they have a big ego
Yep.
and they
I know
only
that.
think about their penises. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Well, they're thinking that, hey, since maybe they fall short on certain things, but that's why they have the big ego and masculinity to sort of like to fall back on terms like, hey, I've got.
Well, this is an Asian culture thing,
know.
but very specifically related to Korean male culture, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my Korean brothers out there, right?
Comment.
Comment and react. But from what I know from hanging out with some of my Korean buddies or just kind of associates, that there's this huge kind of like one-upmanship when it comes to the male kind of like hierarchy in Korean culture. So you guys are always trying to one-up yourself, right? And so you always have to play like, oh, I'm better than you and I'm better than you. So like she was saying, you have to kind of build up this fake ego, this fake masculinity, right? And so when you do that and you're always saying, I'm the best, in essence, it's like this cocky attitude.
Yeah, but cockiness, if you have something to show for it, it's one thing, right? But if you have that cockiness and the ego and you're not paying attention to your girl, you're not paying attention to her needs, then that's why it could be a bad sex experience.
Well, that's the problem, right?
You
Is
know?
because there's a difference between cockiness and confidence. I tell my boys this all the time, right? Because they have to learn the difference. Cockiness is when you think yourself, you just believe in your head that you're capable or you're the shit, right? But you don't actually have
it.
what it takes to be the shit, right? So you just have like this self-delusion, right? Like an ego. Whereas confidence, you've done it before. You actually have the skills, the attributes to do what you know you're capable of doing,
Yeah.
right? And so usually the more confident you are, the less vocal you are about it, the less kind of like acting. You don't really have to act the part. You just, you are the part, right? And so that's the problem. And like I said, hey, my Korean brothers talk about it. I've noticed this as well too. So she's not saying something that I haven't noticed in
lot of
my
people haven't
dealing with
noticed.
Korean men and Korean culture, right? Is that you guys have this kind of like this, I have to be the best and I'm always trying to outdo the other person. And like I said, unfortunately, it borderlines on kind of annoying
But then
and this cockiness attitude.
But then it comes from a culture and then what they were raised in. Think of the environment. They have to work, their boss and stuff are expecting more, especially in Asia and all this stuff. And they're always telling them to work hard, do this, do that, and they don't really have the time for themselves.
It's like every Asian culture has their own way of dealing with the truth, right? With the rat race, right? So in the Korean culture, they've decided to say, okay, hey, if we just have this kind of like almost no fear attitude, even though it's made up, it's generated, it'll help us eventually succeed.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, from that attitude, like I tell my boys all the time, sometimes you have to play with no fear by just being angry or aggressive. Right. And so that almost masks your fear. Right. But the truth is, you're not really no fear.
Yeah.
You're just masking it with anger, aggression, cockiness. What you want to do is actually learn how to do it capable, have the skills, actually have the values to be able to do it. So that way you actually truly have no fear. Right. And when you have that, when you truly have no fear, that's when you're the best.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're literally like not having to worry about psyching yourself up. You go in there and you know exactly what needs to be done. So therein lies the difference. Hey, hopefully good learning lesson for you guys. And then, of course, Chinese. The funny thing I find about the Chinese one is that this was the same girl
Hey, don't be making fun of half of my people.
Well,
because you know your wife is mixed, right?
I was gonna give you my Chinese brother some context because this was the same girl that was interviewed in the last one, and she said that the best Asian race was Nigerian. So maybe she doesn't know which Asian race is the worst because she didn't even know what.
That just went above her head.
Yeah, maybe she didn't know what the Asian. But let's just say hypothetically, she did think that Chinese was the worst, right? So why do you think maybe Chinese is the worst?
Because Chinese men likes to tell, like, you know, most of the time they're like, okay, you do this type deal, but they don't really want to romanticize their women most of the time. It's more like, hey, you just do it, and I'm like, just lay down, you know, type deal. And I don't think most women like that.
You're getting to the nail on the head.
Sort of.
So
that's to me.
The Chinese, I think the reason is similar to more of the other Asian races, whether that's Vietnamese, whether that's Japanese, whether that's, you know, Filipino or whatever, right? And the thing is about that is that we're kind of more indoctrinated to be like less aggressive, right? And so we're shamed to kind of like talk about sex, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right? Like if you look at like most movies that deal with Asians, right? Like the guys are very effeminate, right? Even if there's a love scene, it's very like almost like two women are freaking getting at it, you know? It's not like this dude's taking in charge and obviously grabbing the woman and like, you know, getting with her and she's all lusting for him. It's almost kind of like it's very like it's like two innocent kids playing with each other.
It's almost like the woman has to lead.
Yes,
like
exactly.
If she's interested, if you watch most of the Asian dramas, like the woman has to somewhat hint it, and then the guy sort of like bonk your head. I like you. Hello.
Yeah.
You know, like go to the next step. So it's in a way, it's like somewhat like almost the girl sort of has to lead it, but then they play it sort of a childish way, sort of like, hey, can you read my mind?
Yeah, and
you
like
know?
I said, it looks very effeminate, it looks very innocent, you know. It ain't like a lustful, hot love scene.
Well, not like the Western world where they're just smacking lips, or the French movie where they're
you can see that, you know, the man is the man and you know the woman is catering to her man. Like they don't show that in Asian love scenes, right? And so that's the problem. So, you know, that's kind of like the stereotype. And I think that's kind of where and women don't like that. If you're not an in charge type of guy, right? Most women, like, let's be honest, they want to be sexual with their man, but they don't want to be the person instigating it.
Yeah.
Right? They want you to instigate it, and then they say, okay, you're doing it, so now I follow you, and so it doesn't make me look bad, right? It doesn't make me look like the 304, right? I'm just following your lead.
Your lead, yes.
Right, okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The worst has to be the Japanese guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?
Damn.
Everyone inexperienced, I feel.
Right,
Kinda
right, right.
selfish.
All right, which Asian race is the worst in bed? Yeah,
I mean, it can't ever go wrong, right?
that's
Like,
true, that's true, that's true. You just want to experience it.
I just want.
Spoken like a true man.
When do you plan to experience it?
Oh man.
Maybe shout out to your fans?
Hey, any girl out there? I'm here, right? Hit me up in the comments, I'll see you there.
Which
Okay, so that was the end of the video, guys.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about the last two reactions, right? So you got the first girl that says Japanese are the worst. And this is cool. She gave some context once again. She said they were inexperienced and selfish. What do you think about those two criticisms?
Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with other people, but I'm trying to say maybe she's in terms of selfish is because, hey, it's like, okay, well, you do this and then I'm done. And then they don't want to please her or please the opposite. You know what I mean? Like please their spouse or their girlfriend. It's like, okay, I got my thing and I'm done.
Yeah.
It's not like they don't sort of like, you know, start it. Sort of like, you know how like, when we see Western movies, there's like dinner, and then it leads up to kissing, and then it leads up to this, and then you know what I mean.
But it's not very
but
sexual in nature. Let's be honest.
But I'm just
right?
saying it's like it leads to certain things. It's more of like a hug. You know what I mean? Like they lead to certain things. Like here, boom, boom, bam, and then I'm done. Okay, now you're done.
Yeah.
You know.
the problem with, once again, Japanese kind of falls in with the other
Yep.
stereotypical Asian stereotypes, right? Chinese, Vietnamese, like I was telling you guys earlier. The problem is we have Asian structure of saying that, like, we cannot be overtly emotional, we cannot be overtly expressive of our nature. Right. And guys, this has to do with a lot of different things, right? It has to do with socialism, communism, right? Suppressing men's values, right? And you suppress men's values so much that they're no longer alpha males. Hey guys, it's happening in the Western society now too, right? We talk about a beta simp epidemic in the Western world, right? Asian men have been that way forever. And then you also talk about all the wars that they have lost throughout the years, right? When you talk about how the Japan lost, World War II, right? And you talk about just in general, like how many wars, that they were involved in, right? And then, of course, the suppression of men's values because of the totalitarian dictatorship governments that formed, right? And so you're suppressing all men's nature. And then, of course, you have this Asian morality culture of not wanting to shame the family, not wanting to shame your wife, right? Because if you show those signs of affection in the street, your wife is going to be looked at as like a freaking 304 promiscuous woman, right? And so you don't do those things in public, and unfortunately, because you're suppressed so much, you don't do it
Even
at home.
And you hear that a lot, because I have friends that are from Japan, from Korea, from Chinese, you know what I mean? Like different background. And most of their husbands and stuff don't even show affection, like you said, publicly, because like you said, it's considered, like, even with our parents, it's considered a little hush hush, that's private things between you and your husband. And so that's so the kids view that like, oh, we can't do that, and now they also carry that.
The kids don't see it. It's a revolving cycle, guys, because the kids don't see it, and so it keeps continuing. And that's why we want to talk about this. Is the reason why we're opening it up, because we need to stop this cycle, right? And we had a video, guys, we shot a while ago. It's talking about how Japan is predicting our future, and you guys can see it. These men, Japanese men, are lacking. They're lacking that interaction. That's the reason why they want these waifus. That's the reason why they're having these online girlfriends, right? Or they're going more to sex bars, because they can be themselves to these women, right? They can act out these fantasies, and these fantasies aren't even really sexual in nature. These fantasies are just, I can be the man.
Yeah,
right?
But you're in your lonely world. It's like called Lonely World
real.
Island. It's not
fake.
real. It's just, fantasies.
Yeah.
And that's the that we need to break.
But you can see the biological urge wanting to be released. You see what I'm saying?
But then think about it. When you have that biological urge that's bottled up, right? Later on, you do say meet someone. Now you're going to mistreat that person and thinking, now I can take my fantasy onto this person. And then think about it. That wife is like, well, I don't do that crap. I don't do this way. And you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you release that major fantasy.
That's the reason why. The guys, this is a lot to unpack, but this is the reason why Asian men, they get looked at as kind of like being socially awkward. Like my wife is saying, you're not able to communicate with your wife, right, or your significant other, and so you just come off as being weird, awkward, and then, like I said, misunderstood, maybe a little too aggressive, because now you want her to do all these fantasies.
You got to lead it up, little by little by little.
That you were building in your head, like, oh, now this, and that's the reason why maybe that girl, you're exactly right, honey, because she said that they're selfish, because they're like, okay, hey, I watched all these videos, I've done all these like self role playing where I'm the man, and now I have an actual real girlfriend or real wife, and I expect her to do all these things that
You men have to realize your little fantasy world, or you're watching your Prawn Stars movie, they're getting paid to act those things out. They're getting paid for attraction for you. So they got to play a lot of different roles, right? But for your actual wife or your husband to be, it goes for a woman too. I mean, sexually, man's got its needs, a woman's got its needs, right? But what we're trying to say is, if you guys do not develop it together and work together, like on just little things to build it up, there you go. But you can't just like slam like a bulldozer and expect them to do that.
The problem though is that the man is the leader. So the problem is, if you don't have, this goes back to how this video even started about cockiness and confidence, right? If you don't actually have the values, the attributes, and the skills to be the leader, that's the reason why we're running into this situation, right?
Mhm.
And now, like I was telling you guys, the whole structure has been, has
Flipped.
been broken, right? So
Mhm.
now Asian women no longer are following the structure. Back in the day, at least Asian women were shamed and were told like, hey,
You can't
yes,
do this.
the men aren't leaders. Yes, they're kind of selfish. Yes, they're like a little socially awkward, but
They provide.
that's they exactly. They
Mhm.
provide, and so you're supposed to kind of do your thing for
Mm-hmm.
them, even though they might not really know what they want from
Well,
you.
they have roles. They
Yeah.
have roles to fulfill, like a woman's role.
But
then the man has his role that hey, he's got to provide,
but
and the
but
woman
but
will
we're
follow.
talking but we're talking about a sexual connotation, and the problem is the men weren't taught to be sexual leaders,
Mhm.
right? And so now you guys can kind of see where all this issue is coming from. Okay, but anyways, guys, that's a whole nother video.
It's all parenting.
It's a lot,
so
guys.
let's change it up.
It's a lot. That's the reason
Your
why I said
parents.
these short videos are awesome
Mhm.
because it reveals so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you think about that last dude, right?
Mhm.
I think in the last video he said that Vietnamese girls were the best,
Yeah.
but now he wanted to say which one was the worst. And he's like, hey, I don't really care.
He's like, as long as I get some booty, that is it. I don't really care what race you are. So that's why he was laughing. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, text me, call me, whatever else,
Yeah. And what do you think about that, honey?
Well, it's true. I mean, when it comes, for him, for a man, it doesn't really matter what race, thing it is, as long as you're willing to love and work with together and
Yeah.
sexually.
Well, the problem is, like I said, guys, as men, we need to be a little bit more sexually in control
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of our sexual urges,
Leader.
right? I get it. If there's no, and this is a big if, guys, right? As you guys have to learn. I'm an older dude. You got to learn. Anything is going to have some type of consequence,
Mhm.
right? Even if you pay for sex straight up, right? And you just think that, oh, hey, I'm paying, money for straight sex.
Mhm.
Even that comes with a consequence.
Yes,
and I'm
there
not
is.
talking about like the STD type of consequence. I'm talking about the
Relationship,
mindset
yep.
and the mindset that you think, oh, like this is how women are supposed to be and how relationships will be.
Nope.
This is the reason why the community, the RP community as a whole, and I agree with them that if you just pay for play, you're not a high value
No.
man. As long as you guys realize that. But this is the problem with a lot of my Asian brothers, right? They say, okay, well, cool. I make money now. I can just go pay for freaking it, or I could just pay for the girlfriend experience.
Yeah, but she's not going
It's
to value
not
you.
the same
No.
thing because your values aren't high,
Mhm.
right?
That you have to pay.
Yeah, that's the reason why you have to pay,
Mhm.
right? It's not getting the full value in return, and you're not really the man, right? You're just using your money to
Mm-hmm.
get that value, which in essence,
And you're still awkward.
yeah. Well, my point is,
like
the value that you're getting in return is of equal value because
Mm-hmm.
think about it. If it's a sex worker that has to give you sex for only, let's say, what, $1,000, that's all it's worth. And that's all she thinks you're worth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so there's no really true high value in it.
Let
Okay.
me try to tell you, if you are truly a high value man, you're not acting awkward, you're outgoing, right? You keep yourself up, you're
Say it,
clean,
Hetty,
you
say it,
smell
yeah.
you smell good. Let me just tell you right now, okay? Women out there will be throwing themselves at you for free. Like
There you go.
literally for
There you go.
free. You do not, let me tell you that right now, do not have to pay for sex.
And guys,
Okay?
and when
If you're funny, you're amusing, don't be awkward. Do not be awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Most pretty women love guys. You can see already. Look around you. Look at some
Mm-hmm.
comedians. Look, they don't even look that great. But you know what? They were outgoing. They weren't acting shy. They were not acting awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a race thing.
And-
it's not a black, white, whatever
and-
thing.
and
No,
this- and
it's
this
all
is-
an attitude.
And this is the problem, guys. I get it. It's technically not free. You have to build yourself up to those values, whether it was time,
But
whether
I'm
it was
just saying, they
education,
throw-
whether it was like learning those traits, right? My point is, it's not free. I get it, right? So when we say free, we just mean that it didn't require just money, right? It requires your values as a whole to be high to get it for quote unquote free.
Yeah.
And that's how you really want the woman's lust, the woman's value. Because
It's-
otherwise, they don't respect you.
Because that is part of the respect.
Yeah.
If they're willing to throw themselves at you and goo goo gaga and drooling over you, that means, guys, you've made it up there. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to act all awkward. Trust me, I have friends in all different places, but sometimes it's not always the major money thing. You don't have to be multi-millionaire, billionaire. Okay, as long as you're successful, Get yourself better, do all that stuff. Don't be acting awkward. Don't be spending your time on the computer and, I'm sorry to say, jack off. Do something. Go talk. Go work out. Go fix yourself. Dress better. Get a haircut. Brush your teeth. Floss more. Okay, trust me. And don't act awkward. You know, people out there are just people. Don't be afraid of them. Say hi. Go,
well, like I said, guys,
just don't be awkward.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you
A lot
have
of things
to
you
work
can
on.
learn.
The point was though that you don't want to just pay for it.
No.
Right? And you don't want to like just throw your dick everywhere. That's not a sign of a high value man.
No.
Right? So that's not the right way to go. It. So I get it. We're all horny as men. We'll have sex with anybody.
Be precious.
But you gotta learn a little bit. Like this is why we always say, right? Men undervalue their value and women overvalue the value, and that's part of the whole men undervaluing themselves. Is you're willing to just kind of stick your thing in anything. Okay, so have a little bit of we call it DD, or dick discipline, right?
Yep.
So
or restrain from a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, hey, if you think about it, if you're a good-looking guy, but then you're sort of shy. Come on, you're a good-looking guy. You're 6 feet tall, dude. You're way up there already on the 1 percentile.
Well,
okay, now work on yourself.
like
work
I said,
on your making money or
you got to
dress
learn,
nicer.
You got to learn your values.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Okay. But anyways, guys, hey, that was the whole video. Thanks for joining us. Check us out on Sunday, okay, guys? 6 p.m. Pacific. Talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Join us as we give you guys a glimpse into our lives, give you guys advice, hopefully give you guys entertainment value as well too, and provide you guys better outcomes.
Yes.